Stay comfy. Have you ever wondered what people mean when they say they are suffering from, struggling with, living with, dealing with, coping with anxiety? Do you really know what that means? And if you do, you'll know all about the story I'm about to tell. And if you don't, it's worth sticking around to hear it. So, imagine you're standing on a platform waiting for a train to arrive. The train pulls up and slows to a stop, and you're waiting for the doors to open so that you can get on and carry on your way. But something's happening inside that train. So, say that person's been on a journey for 40 minutes, an hour. She hopped on the train at her departure station and she decided not to take a seat. She decided she'd wait in between carriages out of the way. Standing, it's not really that far. And then about 20 minutes in, she realises she's bursting for the toilet. And there's one a couple of steps away. But by this time, there's more people in the little section between the two carriages. And well, she doesn't really want to do that. She doesn't want to use the loo on a train, a bit uncomfortable. She's only got 40 minutes, 30 minutes of the journey left. It'll be fine. And then the train is pulling in to her station stop. And she's right at the door. She's realised she's the one that's going to have to push the button for those doors to open. And now there are lots of people behind her. There are lots of people wanting to get off at this stop. And for the last 30 seconds, this is what goes through her head. Is everybody expecting me to push that button? What if I go to reach for that button and somebody does it at the same time? I'm going to look like an idiot. What if I hesitate and don't push the button and then everybody's wondering what the hell I'm doing and getting angry because they want to get off the train? Panic. Meanwhile, you're just standing on the platform waiting for the doors to open. The doors open and people just casually pile off the train onto the platform and on the way, and you wouldn't know anything about it. That's anxiety. And I wanted to talk to you about it. So my theory is that there's probably 2 to 3 groups of people reacting to what I've just said. The first group is probably thinking, I don't understand why anyone would feel so uncomfortable just using the loo on a train or pushing the button to open doors. It's literally you put your hand out and you push a button. If somebody does it at the same time, it's no big deal. That's the first group. The second group of people will be sitting there saying, that's me, I do that, I live with anxiety, I understand everything you've just said, it makes perfect sense to me. There could be a third group, and I think this third group is they recognise everything that I've just said, they might have experienced everything that I've just said, but there's never been any consideration or acknowledgement that anxiety is really a thing, and therefore this has just become part of who they are and their world and their life, and it's no big deal. They just avoid the things that make them uncomfortable. So I'm going to talk about it from a personal perspective first, just to give a little bit of background. I have experienced anxiety myself, probably still will. That's a stupid thing to say. I do, I know I do. It might seem that I'm quite confident putting out these videos, but to be honest, this is something that I'm learning to do. I'm learning to be confident enough to do this, and it's a really big learning curve for me. It's a really important one, and I think that I'm doing good things with it, but it's not easy. The 2 main things that cropped up with me when I realised that anxiety was becoming a bit of a problem, and it did kind of creep up on us. One was that I noticed that I was getting more and more obsessed with tidying stuff, and I would fixate on something that wasn't in the right place. Even if I was having a conversation with somebody, I would keep glancing down like, I have to move that, I have to move that. There's a little bit of that in me anyway, but it would definitely be enhanced. My anxiety was something that I felt like I couldn't control, and tidying a room was something that I definitely had control over, and sometimes it would be really like, I would just storm through the house and want to tidy everything. The other thing was that it started to present itself through physical symptoms. So I started getting sensations of a tight chest. The other physical symptom that I had is something which I've later found out is called globus sensation, which is a sensation of having a lump in the throat when there actually isn't anything there. So I do know what it's like. And going back to the train scenario, that was more me when I was younger, I think. I think there's probably a lot of people who have experienced that and not really just put it down to being shy or awkward. I think sometimes just knowing that what you're experiencing is anxiety helps relieve anxiety a little bit. So yeah, there's a couple of reasons I'm talking about it, obviously from a personal point of view. Secondly, a little bit more on a sort of superficial note, I am writing a play about this. So it is whizzing around my brain, and I just thought it's an interesting topic to sort of sit down and have a chat about. When people say I've got anxiety, people who've never experienced it at all probably don't really know what it means. They probably think, well, anxiety means being nervous. Why are you anxious? What are you nervous about? And it's not that at all. It's all to do with in here, and what it can sometimes be to do with negative self-talk, things that you tell yourself about yourself, things that you tell yourself other people are thinking and saying about you, and it just builds up and builds up. And it can come in lots of different forms, and it is a mental health issue. And it's one that should be acknowledged, and it's one that should be talked about. I'm definitely up for doing that. So what are the things that have helped me, and what are the things that I've tried? Meditation is one. Meditation apps are really helpful. Guided meditations, all of that kind of stuff. The stuff that you can basically find on apps or on YouTube. They're all really helpful, but they're not going to be for everyone. Medication, I did for a little while. That was to get me through a period where I needed to do a few things to get my life going in the right direction. And the medication was actually really helpful for that, because it allowed me a little bit of time to not feel as anxious and actually put things in place to get me where I needed to be. I think one of the key things is just stop being so hard on yourself. There's no reason to be ashamed or feel under pressure. It just is what it is. Being kinder to yourself is such a huge thing. Listening to all that negative self-talk is very easy. It's easy to do, but just like I say, if you can take the judgment away from it, I think that's really important. There's so much pressure to not be anxious because you're letting people down and people don't really understand it, and you're not going to come to this party because you're anxious, or you're not going to come and meet me for coffee because you're anxious. You're not going to go into work because you're anxious. It's just stop listening to what you think other people are saying. Stop listening to what other people are saying if it's negative. Just take that pressure off yourself. You don't need it. You've got to come first. You've really got to put yourself in that position. Be selfish. Be as selfish as you can, not to the detriment of other people, but you really have to take a step back and love yourself. It sounds so simple, but it's really difficult. How many of us can sit down and say, I really love myself, I love everything about me? It's not easy. If you're going to be the best person that you can be, you need to love yourself first. If you don't love yourself first, you're not going to be able to give, and people won't be able to give as much to you. It hasn't really got much structure, this video. I just wanted to talk about it because it was in my head. But the two main things, one is for the group of people that probably don't suffer from anxiety. Just even if it's really hard to understand, try. And don't try and problem solve. Just letting them know that it's okay, letting them know that they're safe, not trying to shake them out of it, not telling them to get up and go out and get some fresh air, just letting them know that it's okay. Acknowledgement of what they're going through is sometimes huge for that person. The second group of people are probably the ones who know exactly what I'm talking about, and maybe it's just good for them to hear that other people go through it. I know you know that already, but hearing stories and hearing people talk about it is always something that I found helpful. And for me, although it's an ongoing process, something switched. And when I say something switched, I don't think that I woke up one morning and just flipped a switch. That switch was huge, and it was really stiff, and it was really rusty, and it was like the size of a house, and I had to climb onto it and keep pushing it down and stamping on it until one day it eventually just got so far down that it clicked, and something changed. So it can be a bit of an uphill, I don't want to say battle because it just sounds violent and negative, but it can be a bit of an uphill walk, a bit of a hike. But ask people to come with you, and ask people to step their weight on that big switch, and hopefully one day you'll get to the click. I'm not saying that it's always going to stay in the right place. You might have to do some more work, keep jumping on it, keep it down. But you can get there because, and I know, look, if I can do it, anybody can. Talk to people, just talk about it, make people aware, because I think although there's a big sort of movement at the minute about mental health, there's still a real stigma attached to it and people don't want to talk about it, and I don't understand. People need to talk about it. Just be kinder to people, give them your time, let them talk. And that's kind of everything I wanted to say. It's kind of stream of consciousness, and I do feel like I'm sitting down having a coffee with with a mate, but the mate is a Nokia N6 and it's on a little mini tripod. Anyway, that be all.